Hello, guys. Um, we started reading a book with a friend. We are reading it together. She recommended a book, and then I offered to read it together, and then found the book really interesting. We read some pages from the fourth book, but I got hooked. Really, the book is really good one. This book is a good one. So I decided to read the first book myself, and then I thought, I might as well create a video while reading the book. This is maybe interesting for you. Maybe some of you are a really bookworm. So let's read the first book. I'm gonna share the book on the channel. You may download it and read it on your own, and share um, or record your voice while reading it. I really find it interesting doing this. So let me share. So the book is called Goosebumps. So this is the first book. It is, I think it is a children's book. I don't know. Let's see. Let's read some chapters and see. Josh and I hated our new house. Sure, it was big. It looked like a mansion compared to our old house. It was a tall red brick house with a sloping black roof and rows of windows framed by black shutters. Sounds like mansion is a good word. Expensive, big house and black shutters, like black cartoons, uh, not black curtains. Um, It is so dark, I thought, studying it from the street. The whole house was covered in darkness, as if it were hiding in the shadows of the gnarled old trees that bent over it. It was the it was the middle of July, but that brown leaves blanket the front yard. Our sneakers crunched over them as we trudged up the gravel driveway. So trudged up, walking with difficulty. Tall weeds poked up everywhere through the dead leaves. Thick clumps of weeds had completely overgrown an old flower bed beside the front porch. This house is creepy, I thought unhappily. Josh must have been thinking the same. Looking up at the old house, we both groaned loudly. Mr. Dawes, the friendly young man from the local real estate office, stopped near the front walk and turned around. Everything okay? He asked, starting first at Josh, then at me, with his crinkly blue eyes. Josh and Amanda aren't happy about moving, Dad explained, tucking his shirt tail in. Dad is a little overweight, and his shirts always seem to be coming untucked. It is hard for kids, my mother added. No. It is hard for kids, my mom added, smiling at Mr. Dozy. Her hands shoved into her jeans pocket as she continued up the up to the front door. You know, leaving all of your friends behind, moving to a strange new place. Strange is right, Josh said, shaking his head. This house is gross, Mr. Dawes chuckled. It is an old house, that's for sure, he said, patting patting Josh on the shoulder. But it just needs some work, Josh. No, it just needs some work, Josh, Dad said, smiling at Mr. Dawes. No one has lived in it for a while, so I will take some fixing up. Look how big it is. That's mom. So, look how big it is, mom added, smoothing back her straight black hair, soothing black her straight hair back, uh, black hair, and smiling at Josh. We will have room for a den and maybe a rec room too. You would like that, wouldn't you, Amanda? I shrugged. A cold breeze made me shiver. It was actually a beautiful hot summer, but the closer we got to the house, the colder I felt. I guess it was because of all the tall old trees. I was wearing white tennis shorts and sleeveless blue t-shirt. It had been hot in the car, but now I was freezing. Maybe it will be warmer in the house, I thought. How old are they? Mr. Dawes asked Mom, stepping onto the front porch. Amanda is 12, Mom answered, and Josh turned 11 last month. They look so much alike, Mr. Dawes told Mom. I couldn't decide if that was a compliment or not. I guess it is true. Josh and I are both tall and thin and have curly brown hair like dad's and dark brown eyes. Everyone says we have serious faces. I really want to go home, Josh said, his voice cracking. I hate this place. My brother is the most impatient kid in the world, and when he makes up his mind about something, that's it. He's a little too spoiled. At least I think so. Whenever he makes a huge fuss about something, he usually gets his way. Cool phrase. Two cool phrases. Making a huge fuss about something, um, acting strangely, making a scene. Children do this. If you don't buy something they want to get, they make a huge fuss. They stomp on the ground or they shout, cry. They, so they make a huge fuss uh, about it if you don't buy the thing they want to get. And also, this one gets his way, getting your way, making someone do what you want. It's called getting your way. So this guy, Josh, usually gets his way. We may look alike, but we are really not that similar. I'm a lot more patient than Josh is, a lot more sensible, probably because I'm older and because I'm a girl. Josh had hold of Dad's hand and was trying to pull him back to the car. Let's go! Come on, Dad! Let's go! I knew this was one time Josh wouldn't get his way. We were moving to this house, no doubt about it. After all, this house was absolutely free. A great uncle of Dad's, a man we didn't even know, had died and left the house to Dad in his will. I'll never forget the look in Dad's face when he got the letter from the lawyer. He let out a loud whoop and began dancing around the living room. Josh and I thought he had flipped or something. My great uncle Charles has left us a house in his will, Dad explained, reading and rereading the letter. It is in a town called Dark Falls. Huh? Josh and I cried. Where is Dark Falls? Dad shrugged. I don't remember your. I don't remember your Uncle Charles, Mom said, moving behind Dad to read the letter over his shoulder. Neither do I, admitted Dad. But but he must have been a great guy. Wow, this sounds like an incredible house. He grabbed Mom's hands and began dancing happily with her across the living room. That sure was excited. He had been looking for an excuse to quit his boring office job and devote all his time to his writing career. This house, absolutely free, would just the excuse he needed. Would be just the excuse he needed. And now, a week later, here we are in Dark Falls, a 4 hour drive from our home, seeing our new house for the first time. We hadn't even gone inside, and Josh was trying to drag Dad back to the car. Josh, stop pulling me! Dad snapped impatiently, trying to tug his hand out of Josh's grasp. Dad glanced helplessly at Mr. Dawes. I could see that he was embarrassed by how Josh was carrying on. I decided maybe I could help. Let's go, Josh, I said quietly, grabbing Josh by the shoulder. We would give Dark Falls a chance, remember? I already gave it a chance. Josh whined, not letting go of Dad's hand. This house is old and ugly. I hate it. You haven't even gone inside, Dad said angrily. Yes, let's go in, Mr. Dawes urged, staring at Josh. I'm staying outside, Josh insisted. He can be really stubborn sometimes. I felt just as unhappy as Josh looking at this dark old house, but I would never carry on the way Josh was. Carrying on means behaving in this context. But I would never carry on the way Josh was. Josh, don't you want to pick out your own room? Mom asked. No, Josh muttered. He and I both glanced up to the second floor. There were two large bay windows side by side up there. They looked like two dark eyes staring back at us. How long have you lived in your present house? Mr. Dawes asked Dad. Dad had to think for a second. About certain years, he answered. The kids have lived there for their whole lives. Moving is always hard, Mr. Dawes said sympathetically, turning his gaze on me. You know, Amanda, I moved here to Dark Falls just a few months ago. I didn't like it much either at first, but now I wouldn't live anywhere else. He winked at me. He winked at me. He had a cute dimple in his chin when he smiled. Let's go inside. It's really quite nice. You will be surprised. All of us followed Mr. Dawes except Josh. Are there other kids on this block? Josh demanded. He made it sound more like a challenge than a question. Mr. Dawes nodded. The school is just 2 blocks away, he said, pointing up the street. See, Mom quickly cut in. A short walk to school. No more long bus rides every morning. I like the bus, Josh insisted. His mind was made up. He wasn't going to give my parents a break, even though we had both promised to be open-minded about this move. Giving someone a break, leaving them be, not bothering too much. So Josh wasn't going to give his parents a break. I don't know what Josh thought he had to gain by being such a pain. I mean, Dad already had plenty to worry about. For one thing, he hadn't been able to sell our old house yet. I didn't like the idea of moving, but I knew that inheriting this big house was a great opportunity for us. We were so cramped in our little house. And once Dad managed to sell the old house, we wouldn't have to worry at all about money anymore. Josh should at least give it a chance. That's what I thought. Suddenly, from our car at the front of the driveway, we heard Petty barking, howling, and making a fuss. Petty is our dog, a white, curly haired terrier, cute as a button, and usually well behaved. He never minded being left in the car, but now he was yowling, yapping at full volume, scratching at the car window, desperately to get out. Petty, quiet, quiet, I shouted. Petty usually listened to me, but not this time. I'm going to let him out. I'm going to let him out, Josh declared and took off down the driveway toward the car. No, wait, Dad called. But I don't think Josh could hear him over Petty's wails. "M- Might as well let the dog explore," Mr. Dowsey said. "It's going to be his house too." A few seconds later, Petty came charging across the lawn, kicking up brown leaves, yipping excitedly as he ran up to us. He jumped he jumped on all of us as if he hadn't seen us in weeks, and then, to our surprise, he started growling menacingly and barking at Mr. Dawes. So he started growling menacingly. "Petty, stop!" my mom yelled. "He has never done this. He has never done this," Dad said apologetically. "Really, he's usually very friendly." "He probably smells something on me. Another dog, maybe," Mr. Dawes said, loosening his striped type, looking warily at our growling dog. Finally, Josh grabbed Petey around the middle and lifted him away from Mr. Dawes. "Stop it, Petey!" Josh scolded, holding the dog up close to his face so that they were nose to nose. "Mr. Dawes is our friend." Petey whimpered and licked Josh's face. After a short while, Josh set him back on the ground. Petey looked up at Mr. Dawes, then at me, then decided to go sniffing around the yard, letting his nose lead the way. So he started sniffing, smelling. So let's go inside. Let's go inside, Mr. Dawes urged, moving a hand through his short blonde hair. He unlocked the front door and pushed it open. Mr. Dawes held the screen door open for us. I started to follow my parents into the house. "I'll stay outside with Petty," Josh insisted from the walk. Dad started to protest but changed his mind. "Okay, fine," he said, sighing and shaking his head. "I'm not going to argue with you. Don't come in. You can leave outside if you want." He sounded really exasperated. "I want to stay with Petty," Josh said again, watching Petty nose his way through the dead flower bed. Mr. Dowsey followed us into the hallway, gently closing the screen door behind him, giving Josh a final glance. "He'll be fine," he said softly, smiling at Mom. "He can be so stubborn sometimes," Mom said apologetically. She peeked into the living room. I'm really sorry about Petty. I don't know what got into that dog." "No problem. Let's start in the living room," Mr. Dawes said, leading the way. I think you will be pleasantly surprised by how spacious it is. Of course, it needs some work. He took us on a tour of every room in the house. I was beginning to get excited. The house was really kind of neat. There were so many rooms and so many closets, and my room was huge and had its own bathroom and an old-fashioned window seat where I could sit at the window and look down at the street. I wish Josh had come inside with us. If he could see how great the house was inside, I knew he would start to cheer up. I couldn't believe how many rooms there were. Even a finished attic filled with old furniture and stacks of old mysterious cartoons we could explore. We must have been inside for at least half an hour. I didn't really keep track of the time. I think all three of us were feeling cheered up. Well, I think I have shown you everything, Mr. Dow said, glancing at his watch. He led the way to the front door. Wait, I want to take one more look at my room, I told them excitedly. I started I started up the stairs, taking them two at a time. I'll be down in a second. Hurry, dear. I'm sure Mr. Dowie has other appointments, Mom called after me. I reached the second floor landing and hurried down the narrow halfway and into my new room. Wow, I said loud, and the world echoed faintly against the empty walls. It was so big, and I loved the bay window with the window seat. I walked over to it and peered out. Through the trees, I could see our car in the driveway, and beyond it, a house that looked a lot like ours across the street. I'm going to put my bed against that wall across from the window. I thought happily, and my desk can go over there. I'll have room for a computer now. I took one more look at my closet, a long walk-in closet with a light in the ceiling and white shelves against the black wall. I was heading to the door, thinking about which of my posters I wanted to bring with me when I saw the boy. He stood in the doorway for just a second and then he turned and disappeared down the hall. Josh? I cried. Hey, come look! With a shock, I realized it wasn't Josh. So I think this is the eighth page. I'm going to continue it maybe a while later, possibly tomorrow. Sounds like a really good book. I'm enjoying it. If any of you have watched to the eighth page, you have done a great job. You can share your own voices or the things the words, phrases you're getting from the book, or the ideas, interesting plots. I like the narrative as well. I'm gonna maybe create a video about the whole book later. Guys, see you. See you in the next video.